Hey, what's going on YouTube? So today I want to do my video about the teams to watch in 2015. If you can see, I'm in a new filming location, just moved to my new apartment. That's why I haven't made a video in about a week or two. Anyway, I get to the teams. Now these aren't the teams that I think are going to necessarily be the best teams or maybe sleepers, teams to watch out for. These are just teams that I think you should watch, either progress or regress as the season goes along. Teams that will be very interesting to watch, very interesting to follow even if you're not a fan of. Now, first team that I want to start off with is Navy. If you guys watched my college football playoff prediction video, I said that Navy wasn't going to necessarily make the playoff, but they are a dark horse to watch out for. This is their first season in the AAC. It's their first season in a structured conference. They're no longer independent. So if they do manage to go undefeated and win a conference title, and I'd probably say the sixth best conference in college football, then they could definitely get some recognition from voters. They have a returning quarterback in Keenan Reynolds, a pretty deep, stable running backs. In an option offense that could easily put up, I'd say 60, maybe even 70 points on some of the teams in the AAC with weaker defenses. Definitely a team that I wouldn't say if they go undefeated they'd be in the college football playoff, but you know they deserve at least a little bit of recognition, especially if teams at the top of college football kind of end up eating each other up. Like Big Ten easily could have Michigan State and Ohio State both being I wouldn't say both being 1 or 2 loss teams, but maybe both 1-loss teams. Pac-12 is a little top-heavy too when it comes to the South Division. ACC has a little logjam between Florida State and Clemson. Neither one has really proved themselves to be at the top yet. A lot of people have Florida State winning, a lot of people have Clemson winning. Move on to the Big 12. There's a logjam at the top of every single conference this year. So if Navy manages to work their way to the top, become a clear-cut number 1 in a conference, it can definitely get them some recognition. That's a thing to watch out for. My next one is Georgia. Georgia comes into every year with high expectations. It's just the way it goes in Athens. They very rarely meet those expectations, and normally they do come into the season with a pretty deep, stable running backs. This year's no exception. Between Nick Chubb, Sonny Michel, and Keith Marshall, I'd go as far as saying this is their best stable running backs in a long time. Even though last year they did have all 4 of those running backs on the depth chart, no one had really heard of Sonny Michel or Nick Chubb at the beginning of the season until Todd Gurley had his suspension and got injured. Todd Gurley didn't really play much of a role in Georgia's season last year anyway. I think he only played in a couple games. Nick Chubb's looking fully healthy, hasn't run into any violations, looks like a good kid that will get it done for Georgia this year, not to mention Sonny Michel and Keith Marshall, who is really healthy for the first time since he's been in college. So deep, stable running backs to watch out for, as well as watching their quarterback situation. They have a quarterback coming in, not this year but next, in the class of 2016, named Jacob Eason, who is the number 1 quarterback recruit in the country, has already committed to Georgia and looks like going to be the future of the Georgia program for the 4 years while he's there. Georgia's always had, for I'd say the past 6 years, a good quarterback behind center. They've had Matthew Stafford, Aaron Murray, and then Hudson Mason. Even Hudson Mason, the worst of the 3, was a great game manager for Georgia. Very efficient, through 21 touchdowns to just 2 interceptions, and this year they don't really have a clear-cut number 1 yet. Might be Grayson Lambert from Virginia. That seems to be a name that keeps occurring from Mark Richt. Not really sure how good he would be. He didn't show much at Virginia, but he also didn't have as good a supporting cast as he would at Georgia. So another team to watch out for, a very interesting team with a lot of uncertainty that could turn out to be maybe an expectation-defying team. Maybe they could finally get over the hump in a pretty wide-open SEC East where they are favored to win. But they could also regress and end up being maybe a 4-loss team, falling prey to teams like Florida, South Carolina, Tennessee, and they even play Bama this year. So they do definitely have some tough games on the schedule. My next one is Michigan. This would be a team that's on a lot of people's teams to watch lists for this year. Mine might not be for the same reason as everyone else. I know it's just kind of force of habit with Jim Harbaugh to just kind of assume that he's going to make an immediate turnaround, that Michigan could definitely be a team that could contend for the college football playoff. I just don't see that happening in the first year. Jim Harbaugh's first year at Stanford was a rough year. He ended up turning it into a program that could compete nationally, a team that was a national title contender for the last few years he was there. So I think Michigan could definitely reach that point, but I think the thing to watch with Michigan right now is the quarterback situation, obviously how they progress under Jim Harbaugh, and also a kid named Jabril Peppers. Now, if you do not know who Jabril Peppers is, he's an athlete that committed to Michigan last year, played in a game or two, and then had to get a medical red shirt. One of the best athletes, if not the best athlete, out of the 2014 class. Player that can play on both sides of the ball. He is mainly a safety by trade, but he can also play running back and wide receiver. He's just that athletic. I honestly see Shane Moore starting at quarterback. A kid that really didn't get a chance last year. I think he started 2 games, and then while Brady Hoke was there, kind of mismanaged his concussion situation. So I think Shane Morris could get a fair shot to start. Then it might go well for him, even though he is a junior. He was a 5-star recruit at one point. I think he deserves a fair shot to start. My next team to watch is Tennessee. Again, another team that is on a lot of people's team to watch list. A team that is definitely on the rise, has a lot of stock. Their stock has definitely gone up for 2015. The hype train for the Vols has not stopped since they beat Iowa in their bowl game, and I think that's for good reason. They have a lot of talent returning on both sides of the ball. Butch Jones is doing a bang-up job with the program right now. I don't know if they're going to win the SEC East like a lot of people say they will, but I think they'll definitely at least be an 8-win team this year. Joshua Dobbs is an exciting quarterback to watch, dual-threat quarterback, pretty fast kid. He also has a good arm, good leader. But they have a great set of running backs to start right now. Alvin Kamara, JUCO transfer, and then also Jalen Hurd, a big 6'3" running back. They can just run over people. Had a really good freshman year, should have an even better sophomore year. They're deep at almost every position. They bring in, I think it was the 4th best recruiting class in the country. Khalil McKenzie on the defensive side of the ball is a guy to watch. Derek Barnett, obviously one of the best defensive ends in college football, is another guy to watch. Cam Sutton, they got playmakers everywhere. Tennessee's going to be a really exciting team to watch in 2015 and finally see if they can get over that hump that they haven't been able to get over in like almost 10 years now. The next and my last team to watch is California. Now, Cal hasn't been good for quite a while. It's been a rough few years for Cal, and I don't know if it's going to get completely better as a team this year, but for me, there's one reason why Cal is a team to watch this year, and that's Jared Goff. Jared Goff is a quarterback that might be the best I'd say pro-style quarterback in this next class of quarterbacks that's going into the draft. He might not be the best quarterback overall. He might not be leading the best team, but I think he's the quarterback that could excel most in the NFL. Has a lot of Aaron Rodgers in him, strong arm, can definitely carry a team. He had 35 touchdowns last year, almost 4,000 yards. A kid that can definitely carry Cal to, I'd say, 8 wins in a very, very tough Pac-12. Even if California is not the most exciting team to watch as a whole, watching Jared Goff just by himself, watching his progress over the years, seeing if he is actually a great quarterback that could excel in the pros is definitely a reason to watch him. Go ahead and see him before he ends up getting drafted. Could definitely be a top 5 pick, if not the number 1 overall pick next year. So yeah, there's my top 5 teams to watch. I did want to do my honorable mentions also. I did have 2 of them. My first one is Arkansas. So Arkansas, I think there's 2 big reasons to watch them. One is their running game. They returned Jonathan Williams and Alex Collins, 2 great running backs. Both had phenomenal years, especially to finish off the season last year. I could definitely see Alex Collins being one of the top 3 running backs in the SEC. It says a lot because the SEC is just absolutely stacked with running backs. And also see how Arkansas can progress as a team this year. Should be ranked in the top 25 for the first time in a little while. I believe the first time since 2010. Yeah, back when they had Ryan Mallett. They might have been ranked when they had Tyler Wilson. Not entirely sure on that. But Arkansas, definitely a team to watch this year in a loaded SEC West. I don't know if they will compete even for top 5 spot, but if you crack the top 5 in that division, you'll probably be in the top 25 to finish out the year. My next honorable mention is Oklahoma State, a team that's stock is definitely trending up. Finished the year great last year with a win against OU and then a bowl game win against Washington. They have Mason Rudolph returning after his true freshman season. Should be great this year. They got a lot of returners returning on both sides of the ball, or a lot of starters returning on both sides of the ball. I believe they have 17. The entire receiving corps is going to be back. The running back position, if there's any uncertainty right now for Oklahoma State, it's a running back. But there's a lot of excitement right now because the media prediction for the Big 12 Newcomer of the year is Chris Carson, a 3-star JUCO recruit that Oklahoma State brings in, a kid that looks like he has a ton of promise. Could turn out to be a great running back, or it could be Rennie Childs, the quarterback or the running back that has the most touches right now for Oklahoma State. Either way, it should be cool to see how Oklahoma State can do with the big dogs of TCU and Baylor at the top of the conference. Oklahoma State has a very, very favorable schedule and could definitely be a dark horse to watch out for in 2015. So yeah, that is all my teams to watch for 2015. Definitely should check out how all these teams progress this year, see how their season turns out, and see if they can be all they're hyped up to be. So that's pretty much it. See ya.